and I'm so glad that she can give us a talk tonight. Raised in Fort Collins, Colorado, Hannah Price is a photographic artist and filmmaker primarily interested in documenting relationships, race, politics, and misperception. Price is internationally known for her project City of Brotherly Love, a series of photographs of men who catcalled her on the streets of Philadelphia. In 2014, Price graduated from Yale School of Art MFA photography program, receiving the Richard Benson Prize for Excellence in Photography. Yay. She is currently a Magnum nominee. Over the past 9 years, Price's photos have been displayed in several cities across the United States, with a few residing in the permanent collection of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Currently, Ms. Price lives and works in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hopefully, she's here to stay.
Yeah.
Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thanks for everyone for zooming in. Yeah, so I kind of changed. I told Lori that I was going to present on Semaphore. I am going to present on Semaphore, but I also realized I kind of changed things around, and I decided to just show everyone my Magnum application. So the my sequence, and so it's just all my work from college up to now, and it's all the sequence is all. They're not project by project, so the images are intertwined with each other, and I don't know. I like the way it turned out. I had a lot of help with it at several different tries, and I like this presentation, so I hope you guys enjoy it too. And if you get confused, hopefully you can see which project these images belong to. Yeah, so the title, just to start off, it's not about you. I thought of this title because I guess in my last 3 photography projects, that's like the approach for my viewer, that's what I want my viewer to think about when they look at my photographs, or other people in the world. Just in general, it's like, it's not about you, meaning the self, the person, your mind. Mainly because Cursed by Night is a project, a more conceptual black and white project about how Black men are racially profiled. So this Cursed by Night is for people who see in black and white, who don't understand Black Lives Matter, who see a Black person and dash across the street, or think that they're within a threat just because there's a Black person in front of them. So that's the concept out of Cursed by Night, is how, and I focus primarily on Black men because at the time in 2014, leading up to 14, all you would see is just hear about in the news is just the Trayvon Martin, all these individuals with no guns, no minding their own business, dying in the hands of in the hands of the police. So Cursed by Night is about misperception, and I hope my viewers, I'm sure you all understand, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, but just to, I want my viewers to think about how they're perceiving others in the world. Same with Semaphore. It's less about race. I wanted to talk about everybody, about identity in general, and it's also in black and white because of the polarized opinions and judgment we have of people in this world. And so a semaphore is a flag. It's a device. You hold 2 flags in your hands, and there's 4 communicating to something in the far. So like a boat coming in on dock, there's certain positions that spell the alphabet and have specific numbers. So it's called semaphore because I'm pretty much in my mind, I'm saying every single person has to spell out, talk about their identity, tell the person what their identity is. So like so the viewer or yourself in the world, I'm trying to get people to think about not listening to their perceptions and their thoughts of what they think people are based off what they look like. or who they think people are. So I'm just trying to encourage people to talk to each other and just think about themselves in the world. So this is my Magnum application. It's all of my work. Crap. Sorry, for some reason under Zoom, there we go. My keyboard gets weird and my arrows don't work. Okay. So in my application, I wanted to start strong and end strong. So King Solomon is on the left there with the shadows, the dark shadows. He is a friend of mine. We do keep in touch as much as you can keep in touch as adults who don't live in the same city and who aren't best friends per se. But this is his apartment. We met by me testing out a handmade Steadicam that my classmate Hannah Hummel made at the time at Yale, and he's a filmmaker. So he stopped his car and he was like, "Where'd you get that Steadicam?" And I was like, "My friend made it." And then we became friends, and he let me photograph him, and that's inside of his apartment. And then I found some leaves, and he posed for me for this photograph here. And I got a little lucky because he fell asleep, so that gave me all the time in the world. And it took me so long to get the claw-like shadow perfect with the lighting. Like I was holding the bamboo, and then I was working my camera. So just like using two hands at once was pretty difficult. So I got lucky that he had a little nap during it. And then the image on the right is called Inez Fixated. No, Inez, sorry, excuse me. So this image is for Semaphore, and my idea behind that image is like the advertising look. It looks like it could be an advertising, and I just wanted to get the worst vantage point of this girl. So just like looking straight up her nose. It's still a beautiful image. I always try to make beautiful images, but this is just a part of the sequence to like kind of tell a story along the way of the assignment, and these two images worked together. Oops. There we go. The image on the left, I stood there. That's in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I noticed the light on the sidewalk, and I just waited there for the perfect person to walk by. And this young man, I just loved his jean jacket, and he was willing to pose for me. And I should say for Crisp by Night, all the images are taken with available light. They're all taken at night. So my exposures were at least 12 seconds long. So I really had to communicate that to the subject and have them stay still and tell them what I was doing, etc. So yeah, so these are really long exposures, and that's why they tend to be a little grainy. The image on the right with the two figures, that was one of the very first images I took for Crisp by Night. Definitely influenced by Gregory Crutzen on this photo. I got really lucky. I'm just like a lucky photographer. Like, just like I end up in these moments. Like I was across the street, asked permission to take their photograph. They said yes. They turned towards me right when I put my camera down. That car drove by with all that exhaust, and I was just like, I had to take it. It's not in focus, but like, just had to, just the timing. Got really lucky. The next pairing, the image on the left is in East New York, Brooklyn. I just thought it was very interesting to see all those rocks putting weight on a piece of tarp, and it looks like the piece of tarp is just on the ground. So it's like, what is the tarp covering? And everything's surrounded by a fence. And then on the right is Jamal, and it's for Semaphore. He's just a random stranger in Philadelphia that I met for semaphore, you'll notice that there's I emphasize the white in the black and white in semaphore, the brightness, the white. So, and I have pretty much every subject except for a few wearing white t-shirts. So the whiteness, the white is reference to the white flags that you use to communicate. And so, yeah, that's how most of the subjects are wearing white in the portraits. And I just loved, like, I mean, Jamal, I mean, like, he was just a great person. He looks good, like, and like just the softness of his nipples, you know, like he's just a really calm, nice person. And yeah, we talked for a little bit, 5 minutes, and took this portrait. And then we saw each other at the grocery store like 15 minutes later. And so and then this next slide, the image on the left is there's a group of friends in Lexington, Bed-Stuy. It's Lexington Avenue in Bed-Stuy, excuse me. You have to bear with me. I mean, yeah, I'm a teacher sometimes, but public speaking is very hard for me, so just bear with me. So yeah, so this group, I approached this group and asked to just photograph them and asked them to just stand still. And just the timing just worked out great with the guy's double face there. And the tree on the right is, that's actually, I used to live, that's my old backyard growing up in Fort Collins, Colorado. So that's one of our old trees, just like, I just love its gesture, like moving towards the dark shadow. My parents don't live there anymore. This next slide, the light fixture, it's without a light bulb. That's also in King Solomon's apartment. And yeah, I just love the contrast, the fact there is no light, and all the details in the background on the wall. And on the right is a portrait of this woman in like Cheltenham area of Pennsylvania or Philadelphia. She didn't want her face in the photograph, but she wanted to help me out. So this is our conclusion. She kind of did it naturally, and I asked her to do it again. And then the reason why she didn't want me to photograph her, because she told me she was 70, and I was like, that I think you're beautiful, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, I think it would be a great portrait. But that was her reason of why she didn't want to show her face. So this is the photograph that we came up with. And this next slide, the shadows on the left, there's two subjects in this image. So this is Stephen Chills, and then and then there's a figure here in between the camera and Stephen and I, and they're brothers. So I photographed this at Yale. Chris by Night was made at Yale, and they pretty much I met Stephen on like Utica Ave, asked to take his uncle's portrait, took his uncle's portrait, didn't turn out, and then Stephen gave me his number to take his, and then we ended up becoming friends, and they ended up hanging out with me, and pretty much every weekend driving around Brooklyn looking for photographs at night. And we would get pulled over by the cops for no reason. I do have to mention that. Excuse me. I would pull out my Yale card because I was photographing for school, and that's what kept us from getting in trouble, or that's what made them leave faster, I guess. So this is the second attempt to that image. Yeah, I made this image once before. Yeah, I worked with the shadows on that wall for a while. Excuse me. All right, the grave on the right from Semaphore, that's in Mississippi. I had went with my dad. My dad grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, so I went with him and his father, my grandfather, was one of 17 children. So, and he had a lot of land. They had a lot of land. So we went to see how much land our family had, and it wasn't worth anything. So that's how I found this image here. It's just wandering around Mississippi. The image on the left is from Curse by Night. It just the look of it. I was on that street for a while and just stared at this image and then took a picture. And luckily the car in the back drove away, so it's kind of ghost-like. The image of George Washington, that I shot that for the New York Times Magazine. There's these presidential busts in Richmond, Virginia. There used to be a presidential park of all of I think it was like, I think they had 49. They were making Obama, excuse me, not 49, 43. They had 43 busts, clean, pristine, at this presidential park, and they were in the making of Obama, but the park closed down, and this industrial farmer who lived like 12 minutes away said he would take them in, and he put them on his land, and within transportation they all got damaged. So they have this like eerie death look to them, which is like right down in my alley. So I'm really happy that they chose me for this assignment, and I'm really glad how it turned out. So the next slide, the image on the left is from Semaphore. That is my dad in our old backyard. Yeah, he's not wearing white. I took this portrait before like I developed the concept, but I included this image just because it reminds me of Judgment, just like standing back and in the shade, watching people, or just like kind of hiding. And then the image on the right is for Semaphore as well. That's an old neighbor when I lived in Kensington. Her name is Ingrid. And years later, we still kept in touch because my roommate at the time was really close to her, who has since moved to Philadelphia, but I still have her number, and we met up, and yeah, she was really nice, still really nice, and we still sometimes talk, not a lot. This next slide, they're both for Semaphore. The image on the left is, his name is Simon. I found Simon at Whole Foods during a lunch break. I work at the Community College of Philadelphia. And I just loved Simon, everything about him, like his legs, his hair, the tattoos. And I asked him if I could make his portrait. And he turns out he's a photographer as well, so he's all about it. We exchanged numbers. I found a location, and we made this portrait. Oops. And then the image on the right is, those are my sister's feet. She's diabetic, so I focus on the feet because your feet are really important. Your limbs are really important in terms of diabetes. And it was just a constant concern for her. Diabetes is a constant concern for her. So I wanted to make this type of image. These two images are for Semaphore as well. The car it's on Oxford Street in North Philly. It's about 7 minutes from where I live. I was on my way to Target, and I like before I reached the car, I could smell so much gasoline. It was so bad. And then passed the car and I ran back home, grabbed my camera, took several pictures, and literally right after this photograph, the tow truck came to take it away. So yeah, so just timing for me. It's all timing. And except for when I want to have a specific image in mind. And on the right is Inez fixated. So this is Inez, the same woman in the beginning. Um, she's in a different position facing the opposite way. And I have her purposely looking demented because of just the societal pressures that women deal with, the image, looking perfect, looking beautiful, sexy, and just her being demented, so fixated on that she's not present, she's possessed. So that's the idea I had behind that image. The first idea with that image, I wanted a girl, beautiful girl in her bathing suit to vomit on the beach. That was my initial idea. Just like with the disgust of this image, this trope or just this like expectation we have for females. Um, but it didn't work out. I just kept thinking about bulimia, so then I ended up with this image here. Um, yeah, and I found Inez on Craigslist. I had a specific image in mind, and I wrote it all out on Craigslist. And I specifically said woman photographer looking for to photograph a female in their bathing suit, and then I laid out the details, and Inez was interested. She's probably graduated by now, but she went to film school in California. The next few slides, the one on the left is for our semaphore. That is Jing. She used to be a CCP student, and I first saw the location, and then I asked to make her photograph. And right before we met up, or before I took the photograph, she told me that her boyfriend proposed to her. So, and you can see her hands. She's playing with the engagement ring, and she doesn't know at that time. She didn't know if she wanted to marry him. I tried to get in contact with her again, but the last time I saw her, she lost her phone. She was looking for it, and so I don't have her information anymore. Or she never reached out to me after she got her new phone. And the image on the right is a family friend, and that's from the series Cursed by Night. His name is Daryl Perkins, our family friend, and his wife. And they live in Hartford, Connecticut. And along with Cursed by Night, I was watching a lot of horror. Just wanted a horror look. And they helped me with this image. Yeah. The next slides. The one on the left is from Cursed by Night. That is City Hall in Philadelphia. I don't know if you guys recognize it. Yeah, and the in the very center, that small man holding the book, and then the figures, the like slaves, like carrying another person, just like the all the structures on the City Hall building is just so gothic and eerie that I just wanted, again, at night, this dark sky, this like white man holding a book and then looking down on you. And yeah, so like that's why I wanted to make this photograph. And then the image on the right is from Semaphore, Kayla and Zane. That's the title of the image. And Kayla, she responded to my Craigslist ad for the bathing suit. And I was actually going to make two versions of that image, but then she told me that about her son, and that how she wanted portraits for her son because she wanted to try and get him in the entertainment industry. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll take portraits of your son for you for acting or whatever. So I took portraits of her son, and then I asked to take a portrait of them together for me for this project. And yeah, she was great. And the whiteness, she's not wearing white, but so I put them in front of one of those electric boxes, um, and it's black and white. So I just, and it was high noon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, very bright. So that's how I got that image. And her son, luckily, there's um, some people playing soccer in the distance where he's watching people play soccer. So like he just naturally put his hand like that and just stayed. I didn't have to do anything except for move myself, which was amazing. Okay, this next slide, the black and white, the bridge. This is Brooklyn Bridge. We're on the Manhattan side. Um, I got really lucky with this image. This is like, that image is the reason why you should carry your camera with you everywhere. Because when I photographing Curse by Night, photographing at night, I wouldn't get to and I would stay with a friend because I didn't live in Brooklyn. And I wouldn't be done photographing until after midnight, so like parking is impossible after midnight. So my car got towed 3 different times doing this project, and one of the times when they towed it, they damaged my oil tank. So I went to the city to try and get my money back for repairing my oil tank, and I'm on like the 17th floor, or I don't know what floor. I just said 17. Can't remember. And I just looked out the window, and there this image was. I literally took like three pictures, and yeah. So it's the Brooklyn Bridge for you. And next, the portrait in color. It's from a series called Resemblance. Most of the and they're adolescents, like teenagers, high schoolers, probably 8th, 9th grade. And I made that body of work in college at RIT. So yeah, I made these images like 2008, 2009, and it was the first time that I thought about being an artist. Or at RIT, I changed my major 3 times pretty much. So I started off photojournalism, and then I realized that I needed to work on my lighting. So I changed my major to advertising, and then I realized I didn't like selling things. So I changed my major to fine art. And then growing up, Fort Collins, Colorado is white suburbia. And so, of course, for college, I left as soon as I could to the East Coast where there's more diversity. And then I went to RIT not ever seeing the campus, and then, of course, just being an artist, I was still the only Black person in my classes. So I chose this project of photographing young adolescents who looked like me, because when I was in school, I really wanted to go to school with people who looked like me. So in college, I was a little envious of these students who got to go to school with um, other Black people, other Mexican people. So that's the idea behind resemblance, is that we look the same. We have this resemblance, but my background is white suburbia instead of an inner city high school. So they're just straightforward portraiture. The image on the left was for a pop-up magazine. It's in Philadelphia. It's a story about Aaliyah is her name, a story about Aaliyah and her son. She took this radio class, and she's a great person. She's really good at telling stories. So it was a story on her. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the presentation. And the image on the right is from Resemblance as well. These 2 images are from Resemblance as well. these two images, the image on the left is for the New York Times Magazine. Again, Nicole Hannah-Jones wrote this piece. These are the children of a woman who was the subject of the article. The article is about, I'm forgetting the title, but the article was about how COVID-19, she was struggling before COVID-19 and how COVID-19 made things worse for her and her family. So that's her children there in New Jersey. And the image on the right with the spilled milk is from Resemblance at the high school. These are also from Resemblance. Usually, like, this is my first Zoom talk. But usually if we were all together, I would tell you guys to interrupt me. But I guess we can't do that now.
You can if you wanna talk.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt me. Like,
okay, well, there's some
questions.
questions. Yeah, there's questions in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So one is just like tripod. Are you hand holding? I mean, the 12-second exposures, obviously there's a tripod involved, but you know, yeah.
Yeah, definitely tripod. Yeah, all the night tripod. This one probably no tripod just because of the angle, and it was so bright outside. But most of my work is with a tripod.
Ron wants to know film or digital.
These are all digital. I mean, sorry. All film. Oh my goodness.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and if I get a job, I'm like, can I shoot film? You know, like film, please film. You know, like even like digital. I can shoot digital. Sometimes I do, but I prefer film. So yeah, all tripod. Some of the presidential busts images, some of them I had to use a ladder. And that, yeah, ladder. I have a ladder. I kind of take a ladder with me everywhere I go now when I'm photographing, just in case. I've used it like 3 times this year for photographs. Yeah, definitely tripod for sure.
So I think you're going to get into it. Oh, by the way, I just love the picture of the woman with her son.
Oh, thanks.
I'm amazed by that. But I think you're going to get into it. But the thing that you said that sort of makes things more clear about your work that I've never really understood is the way you situate yourself between the audience and the subject, and you're thinking about the subject, of course, but you're really also thinking about the audience, and you've kind of put yourself in between, and that really, I think, really has a sense of, there's a sense of tension there, and that I never really understood. So thanks for saying that. I really learned quite a bit now, and it helps me see your work more clearly.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I've just like the idea of perception in using a two-dimensional camera, you know, and then portraiture, like you're left with just the surface. So that's my idea behind both of those projects, Cursed by Night and Semaphore, is that it's just you're just left with this surface. So I'm trying to, I don't know, like take advantage of the surface and trying to make these sort of abstract portraiture. I mean, they're not abstract, but like just make this portraiture that's also emotional. Like the subjects hopefully are giving you something. And then yeah, just to think in general, just thinking about perception, how people are perceived, especially people of color, especially Black males. And I'm sure we all know now.
There's more questions popping up, but I think you maybe just keep going in the work, and we'll get back to those questions. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can't see the chat. Like it's not on the.
It should be down below, but I'll ask the
Oh, I see
question
the chat.
because
Like,
we're recording it and that helps with the recording. So I'll ask the questions. Don't worry about it.
oh, cool.
And then I'll save it for you and send it to you.
Okay, perfect. This is from Resemblance as well. The fountain, just like the fingers, the three drops of water where you're supposed to put your fingers, and the index, I think that's the word, and that the water is just still just running. And then this portrait here, um, I like how her own shadow looks like she's giving herself a kiss on the forehead. The next few slides, the image on the left was for ESPN, their online undefeated segment. This girl, I'm forgetting her name. She just graduated from Temple and she got a job at the Flyers. And the image on the right, the portrait, is from the Resemblance series of Adolescence there. These two images were made for the New Yorker. The portrait is Brent Leggs. He's a preservationist and architecture historian. His main purpose, or his main job, is preserving African American historical structures. So I photographed. I was hired to make his portrait in D.C. And the image on the right is the Winfrey Cottage in Richmond, Virginia, and Winfrey would just and it's right next door to the slave jail. So she owned her own home, and she would take care of some of the slaves that in the area. And yeah, there's a lot behind it. There's more images to this as well. I also went to Rosenwald schools, the Rosenwald School in, it's about an hour from Richmond, Virginia. And and yeah, never mind. And then nothing from now on, the images are not intertwined. This is just one project. This is the City of Brotherly Love that I made in Philadelphia back in 2009, over 10 years ago. That's crazy. 2009 to 2012. Yeah, and just like I moved to Philadelphia right after college, and growing up in white suburbia, being the only Black art student, not the only, one of very few. Um, and just my first time in a large city, living in a large city. I was just really unfamiliar with city life. And my first time getting catcalled, I was like, what? Like, I kind of didn't know, like, I didn't think I was like attracted enough for some stranger to just yell whatever they want at me about about my beauty. Um, so I was thrown off guard, and I realized it was happening 5 times a day, on my way to work, on my way to grocery store, and so I decided and to take photographs. I wasn't. It did make me extremely frustrated, but I didn't reprimand the men. I knew I came from a different place, and so the camera just allowed me to approach and just tell them, I'm not interested in getting with you. Well, well, first of all, they didn't expect me to respond. The What was normal at that time was to avoid such calls, but I responded, and that threw them off guard as well. The fact that I responded, they would ask to take their photograph. A lot of them said no because immediately they would realize what I'm getting at. But some of them did say yes, and a few of them I did run into frequently on we had the same route to work. So for example, these two guys in the train, yeah, their job was just like 3 stops before mine, you know? So, like, I saw them every day, and I actually had an opportunity to retake their photo, so that's how I made the train image. Um, the guy on the bench, same thing, he was really nice, and, like, we learn about each other's lives. They learn I grew up in Fort Collins, I learn about them, we just talk and then exchange contact, and, the guy on the left on the bench let me photograph him a second time as well. And then the guy in the cars, they literally just drove by. We're at a stoplight. You can see the reflection of my bike. Um, and as they pulled up, I asked to take their photograph. The guy at the wheel did pose, but I was like, no, don't pose. And he it was perfect. Um, I also lived in from 2009 to 2012. I lived in West Philly, Brewerytown, and South Philly. I had to move a lot. I had bad luck with apartments. And so the guys behind the door here are in Brewerytown, and I was just walking home from work one day, and they saw me and came to the door. Um, and then it's a laundromat on Girard Avenue, actually, like Girard and like 26th or something. Brewerytown has changed a lot. Um, The guy in the car with a cigarette, that's also in Brewytown. He literally pulled over, like, I have another photograph of his wheel, like, hitting the curb. Um, and then the guy in the storefront was just nice and willing to work with me. These next portraits, the image on the left, that's Hassan. This is, I think that's my second attempt photographing him. Um, and before this, he asked me to take images for, like, he's a musician. He asked me to take images for his album. So me and his friend, I went with him and his friend, and we photographed in front of a bunch of tags. And then um, this is right before I left. That's his girlfriend on his lap on his front porch. And then on the right, that portrait, that 4508 Walnut Street, I lived right next door to that on the other side. This guy worked at um, that sign, that lumber and repairs, the store. What's the name of, you know what I'm talking, kind of like a Lowe's, but more local.
Um,
He worked there.
Hardware.
Hardware store. And then last, but not least, and of course, with my Magnum application, I wanted to start strong and then end strong, and then this image, this man here, very, very strong. Um, uh, this is in West Philly. I actually was on my way to see an apartment because my roommate and I were looking for another place, and I was running late. I like needed to get something at CVS, was like walking really fast to my car, and I ran into this guy, and he wanted to take me to the movies. And I was like, no, I gotta go. And then I was like, oh my God, I can take a portrait. And then I ran back. I was like, can I take your picture? And he was like, yeah. Um, so when I made this, and actually, to be honest, this was a vertical first, and then I cropped it to, or it was horizontal, and I cropped it to vertical. Um, yeah, and I feel like I left a lot out. But yeah, so any questions? Should I keep sharing my screen?
Yeah, maybe for a little bit.
Okay.
So here we go. Barbara asked, why film? Sorry, she came in late, but why is it film that you gravitate to?
Okay. And no problem. I have no idea when people come in or not. Film, I grew up with film. Um, so film was the first thing I learned for taking photographs. And even though and then uh, I think film reads light differently. than digital. I feel like digital is very saturated. So I love the way film reads light, and it's easier to predict and it's easier to work with without looking at the image you made. So like the more you work with film, the more you like work in the same and with in lighting conditions, you can start predicting um, the light you're working with and the exposure you're working with. So that's why I enjoy film, because it's so consistent and and if you make the perfect exposure, the way it reads light is just, in my mind, beautiful compared to digital. Digital still, even though like you could have depth to an image, it still feels a little flat to me, and um, just really saturated.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Um, uh, Brian asks, how do you process your film? Do you have a dark room? By the way, awesome concept and shots.
Thanks. In Philly, I process color at Indie Photo on Gerard. They do a really good job. And then I work at the Community College of Philadelphia. So if you guys want to take classes, you're more than welcome. So we have a black and white darkroom at CCP. So I process my own black and white there on my own when I'm not scheduled to work. However, during the pandemic, I take my black and white to Indie Photo now, because I haven't ordered. I don't know what I'm doing yet in terms of new work. So.
Ron asks, in the first image, could you talk more about why the bamboo leaves?
I found it in his apartment, and I wanted to fill the space. I definitely was projecting a shadow, and I believe I was reading Invisible Man at the time. So maybe I just fell into it. I just walked into the space, you know. I think that's the name of the book. Sorry. But yeah, and then like he was just a very interesting person. His religion, like he had just his apartment, like you would spend hours there. You just find so much stuff.
Y'all feel free to, unmute yourself if you want to have more of a conversation, but I'm going to read Corin's comment. I love the shot of the girl with the shadow that is kissing her. I could use more time with that image. So if you want to go to that image in resemblance. And he asked, any advice for putting together a story for publication? Application is asking for previous publication experience.
Hannah, this is Corinne, actually. I unmuted myself. I figured I would just...
Oh, Corinne. Sorry, Corinne.
That's okay. I figured I would just say hi.
I want to see your face. Sorry. That's okay.
Hi,
I'll see it later.
I have the opportunity to apply. I was encouraged to apply to Magnum. They actually have an open call right now.
Uh-huh.
They're looking for different themes around COVID, education, and, the challenges that families are facing. Mm-hmm. And part of what is keeping me from applying is that I don't have any experience in a publication, not even a blog. And I don't have any access. The advice I was given was to do a POV on a family, but I don't have that access. And so I feel like I just feel like I am not applying because I don't have that intimate kind of perspective. And I wanted to focus on education and like the remote learning and the challenges that families are facing. But the image that I have is like, it's an image of these young people in a park with their preschool teacher, and they have masks on. And I was just struck by that. And I told a whole story. There's a whole narrative with it, but that's what I was struck by. And I wanted to go with that. But the advice I was given was to do more of a POV, and I don't have that access. So.
Okay. Don't worry about not being published. Doesn't matter. Just make what you want to make, what you're inspired by, because you're most likely gonna make your best work. You know, it's the worst, it's the hardest thing having someone like doing something that you don't want to do, you know. So just do what you feel. And I mean, like, you can always just like ask, I mean, like, that's I've been in that situation where um I needed to, like, they wanted a specific some someone wanted a specific image. I can't remember who it was, of
Mhm.
like a black family eating dinner and then like their family portrait on the wall behind them. And I was
Yeah,
and I had a 1 week to do it, and I was like, all right, now I have to find a black family. You know, like,
exactly,
yeah, and
exactly, exactly.
and I mean, if you can, I mean, then you just have to like go out in the street and start asking people. But if not, just make the work that you want to make that follows under, you know, just do the education if that's what you're feeling. Because
Yeah, I mean,
you're
I'm
not
not
feeling it.
gonna, yeah, I'm just not gonna, the family that I know, which is my friend, their kids are in preschool, and I'm immunocompromised, and I don't want to put them in a situation where they can't give me the perspective that I guess this person was looking for me to I guess tell it from, which is they're back in school now. So it's like they're challenged still. Either way, I don't feel comfortable asking them, and also I'm immunocompromised.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah,
I
don't put yourself
yeah.
in danger ever.
So, so anyway, I appreciate that advice, but I'm gonna apply. Maybe not for this for the Magnum, but I'm gonna go ahead and just do what it is that kind of like makes me happy. So
Yeah, definitely do that, cause like, um, Magnum blew my mind, you know, like, I had no idea that I was even being considered, you know, and this my work that I'm showing you now is
yeah,
right now my life work from college to now, and this entire time I've just been making images that I wanna make. So when I was at Yale doing Curse by Night, no one wanted to see negative pictures of Black men. Or like a dark projection on black men, but like in my mind this is the reality of like a not like it's literally a curse every day for black people, you know, to be racially profiled. So like it was important for me to bring up that concept instead of listening to other people saying I want to see positivity. And yes, I agree. I also want to see positivity, but the black and white night dark horror images is what I was thinking about and wanted to produce at that time. So if I did what other people told me to, I probably wouldn't be here right now.
thank you so much. I really appreciate your advice.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. That was great. Barbara asked, what advice do you give to students who hope to get published, work for magazines, get their work noticed?
Yeah, just keep shooting. Try not to look like other people, you know, like, or your it photographs. Like, try to work on your own style. So, for example, I'm an odd photographer. Like, I'm not always looking at photographs, but I'm always looking, you know, like in my everyday life, you know, like even if I pass someone on the street, I'm like, what does like, and I'm like, what does a Hannah photograph look like? You know, like how would I photograph that? So it's like just more and more do what you're interested in, and more like try and create a style that is you. So when other people see the work, they're like, oh, that's a Hannah picture. Or like it looks like Hannah, you know. So like just keep making work. If you're influenced by someone, just and you want to learn their technique, definitely copy them, but like end up in your own world. Just try not to make images that look like other people's images. And then of course Instagram, you know, that's a great exposure, you know. So like that's a um honestly, like I've never reached out to publication, so it's just exposure, just like just someone seeing your work, and then editors will just they have their way of working. They'll save the images that they like, and they have their own list of photographers. So just keep working, you know, and just keep trying to get the exposure out there. Keep submitting to things. Keep,
There's lots of praise, and I'll share the chat with you afterwards. But Jim asks, or says, thanks for sharing your beautiful work. Do you know Jeff Wall? Do you know Jeff Wall's take on Invisible Man?
I know him, and I know that photograph. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I don't know that. I can't remember. No, sorry. Do you?
Jim?
Yes, it's the Jeff Wall photograph is inspired by, I think, inspired by reading Invisible Man, and it has some, I think, interesting things in common with your image.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess I didn't know that, but I do know the photograph because he's in a room full of light bulbs, right?
That's right. Yeah, and the figure is facing away from the lens.
Cool. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I was reading that for that image. Thank you.
So can you talk a little bit about the nominee process for Magnum?
Sure. I wasn't planning on applying. I never thought I was Magnum material, actually. And I was asked to apply. So I did, and I got help with the edit. And so right now I'm a nominee. There's 3 stages. I passed the first stage. The first stage is this application, and 50% of the members voted for me to move on to the next stage. So now I have 2 years to make a whole new portfolio, and 50% have to vote for me. So I guess that's the hardest part. Like, this portfolio is over like 12 to 14 years. So now I have 2 years to potentially make a portfolio just as good. So in 2 years, they will look at my portfolio again, and then 50% of the members have to vote for me. And then I move on to the associate stage. And then I have 2 years to make another portfolio. And then the last stage, 75% of the members have to vote for me, and then I become a member.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Big deal. Kia asks, I once saw you installed using light boxes at Silver Eye. How did you go about deciding how to frame your photographs?
Oh, so that light box at Silver Eye, that was just for the window, for their display out. So for people at night driving by, they could see a photograph at night. But the whole show, I inkjet paper, mounted it, and just frames with no glass and no mats, no space. Yeah, so that's how I framed that show.
Great. Well, it's 8 o'clock, and we like to wrap early so we can respect your time. Hannah, thank you so much for this evening. It was really amazing. I don't know if people want to, give her shout outs in the chat, but you can see Jones clapping.
Yeah, I wanted to see everyone real quick if they have their cameras on.
Yeah, if you can, show your face. It was great. The work is beautiful. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. And thanks for listening to me talk. I'm so awkward, but thank you.